What is up to all the college football fans watching college football today and pouring into this live? We just got through two slates of exciting games. We just got done with the noon, the 3:30. They are in the books, and we're going to break it all down from a recruiting perspective. That's why you guys are on the On3 Recruits channel, and recruiting is going crazy right now. How about that? We got huge flips. We got secret visits. We got late wins affecting where guys are going. It is wild right now in these recruiting streets. All right. So what is this? This is recruit reaction. We're going to talk all about some of these games, some of the big time visits that are taking place right now. Steve Wiltfong is working the phones. He's getting recruiting intel. He is the best national insider in the business and the only one that's on YouTube right now talking recruiting. So we're going to get into it in a minute, but you guys do me a favor. Let's get some more people in here. So they tell me that if you guys smash that like button, it'll help out the algorithm. It's the only reason I ask. I just want more people in here, right? Like if we're going to hang out, we might as well make it a party. So do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, I mean, I can't imagine that you're not subscribed, but if you're not, what are you doing? Hit subscribe. We're less than 10 days from the early signing period, and you can just feel it. These visits mean more. These games mean more. We're going to break it all down. Some of the major developments this week. Raise your hand right now if you watch Julian Lewis commit live on the Pat McAfee show. That was amazing. Did you guys see it? I mean, he'd been trending to Colorado for a while, but was it Thursday? On Thursday, Julian Lewis, we get the news in the morning that Julian Lewis is going to make his commitment. He does it on Pat McAfee. He goes where we expected him to go. That wasn't the last surprise of the day. It was a big day by itself with just the Julian Lewis news, but then we get Bryce Underwood. Who knew? Who knew? I mean, Michigan fans in the chat knew. Should have told us, but Bryce Underwood, Thursday night, flips his commitment from LSU. He'd been committed. I think the total, Shay had it. I think it was like 321 days, 361 days, something like that. And now he's a Michigan Wolverine. It's crazy. We're going to talk all about it on this show. Let's bring in Steve Wiltfong. Steve, I know you are working the phones, but let's talk Ohio State and Indiana. The Buckeyes in the shoe. They win it 38-15. No cigarette smoking in the shoe on Saturday. Curtis Rourke goes 8 for 18 for 68 yards. Meanwhile, Will Howard, 22 of 26 for 201 yards, 2 touchdowns, just 1 pick. And I think, this is a recruiting show, so let's talk a little transfer portal. Caleb Downs, that punt return that he broke probably opened this one up, and the Buckeyes never look back. 316 yards of offense to just 151 for Indiana. We're big Hoosier fans on this show this season, so this was a big matchup for the recruit reaction, Steve. I mean, hey, what did you think of that Big Ten showdown?
Ohio State, Brian Day said it after the game. We knew it was on the line, had to get it done. A trip to the Big Ten title game, a rematch with Oregon. If they don't beat the Hoosiers, they're not coming to the great city of Indianapolis, where I'm coming to you live right now, the Indianapolis suburbs here. But look, Indiana scored on the first possession. Ohio State got dialed in and took care of business in dominant fashion. Curt Cignetti said after the game, all good things have to come to an end. Ohio State deserved it to win. Indiana wasn't able to respond to Ohio State in the second half, and the Buckeyes now have Michigan coming to the shoe next weekend to end the regular season, and then conference title games, and then we get on with the college football playoff. But it was a huge recruiting weekend at Ohio State. Let's just dive right into it. Josh, 5-star offensive tackle, David Sanders Jr. pops up inside the shoe. Longtime Tennessee commit. Since committing to the Vols in August, he's been Mr. Vol. He has only visited Tennessee, only talked to Tennessee, but the early signing period is less than 2 weeks away. It starts on December 4th. and we're dotting I's, we're crossing T's, we're
Mhm.
having final conversations and talking to several people with knowledge of the recruitment. This visit started to get legs on Wednesday. He is on campus at Ohio State this weekend. He could stay into Monday. So there is going to be a lot of dialogue and a lot of opportunity for Ohio State to make a move on Tennessee. And talking to a source early this morning, they thought that this was even starting to trend Ohio State's way. We'll see how the conversation goes with the Sanders family, Ohio State, but he's having a great time. He's around the Ohio State recruits, got around the coaches. You saw him there with offensive line coach Justin Fry, who he trusts. Look, there were times where I thought Ohio State led for David Sanders. It was obvious that they finished in the top two for him to be back on campus in Columbus. And this is going to be a developing visit, and so we'll be talking about it all weekend into Monday.
Yeah, your report today, it caught me off guard. I mean, I think this was maybe the biggest surprise visit of the season so far. Maybe just generally speaking, hadn't heard much about David Sanders, let alone David Sanders in Ohio State. But David Sanders, as soon as the news broke, I went over to VolQuest, and Austin Price put on the message board a little note saying, this is serious. I mean, this isn't like a one of these visits where he let the staff know and everybody's okay with it and they all are on board. I mean, I think this was maybe even a shocker to the Ohio State staff as well.
Well, we have to give our colleague Pete Nakos
Tennessee,
credit
sorry.
too. He was the first to report on our network that David Sanders was at Ohio State. Again, this started getting movement on Wednesday from what I'm told. So look, as he goes to make a final decision on where he's going to sign his letter of intent, getting back to Ohio State is now part of the process, and Tennessee definitely has major competition here, talking to sources on my end. So I'm excited to see how this visit continues and what this means for David Sanders as these two programs battle down the stretch.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about this one all week, obviously. The number one offensive tackle in America taking a visit to Ohio State 9 days before signing day. And Steve, you just said he could be there till Monday. So we're talking about 7 or 8 days before pen hits paper. David Sanders is going to be in Columbus. Steve, he's not the only flip target on campus this weekend in Columbus. Talk about it.
Yeah, Aiden West is defensive back committed to Michigan State that Ohio State was working to get to campus. Look, he's excited to get there and learn more about how Ohio State operates, but I think that they're certainly rising up his list. He's going to be back at Michigan State next weekend, and this is Jordan Woods' second visit to Ohio State. He took his first visit prior to being offered. So Ohio State's been keeping the Georgia product warm for a while. He's now back on a second visit. If Ohio State's pushing, I think he'll end up playing his college football in the state of Ohio just as a Buckeye instead of a Bearcat.
All right. Now, two number one players at their position for the 26 class, Blaine Bradford, Tyler Atkinson, both on campus. Steve, have you caught up with either of them?
Yeah, quite a few elite juniors on campus, Josh. I talked to Tyler Atkinson. He said the environment is nuts to say the least. The fans are loyal, rain, sleet, or snow. He's really impressed at how the linebackers played and how they get after it. And he said the Buckeyes are showing him a lot of love. Chad Simmons reported that Atkinson's going to be staying the night at Ohio State. I think we got Ohio State in the top two. I mean, Georgia and Ohio State are the programs I'm looking at the hardest for Tyler Atkinson. Blaine Bradford's the number one safety in the country. I talked to his dad after the game. Blaine was meeting with the Ohio State coaches at the time. He talked about the atmosphere being electric and just that, look, his son loves the coaches, the fans, and the city of Columbus. LSU's trending on the on-3 RPM. His brother's committed to LSU in the 2024 class, but Notre Dame, Ohio State, those are a couple programs that he's given a keen look to, Josh. Those weren't the only two elite blue chip high-ranked juniors that were on campus. Devin Carter, the number 38 overall prospect per the On3 industry, receiver from Douglas County, Georgia. He was there. He said the coaching staff and the continuous production from the receiver room at Ohio State continues to excite him. He could see himself developing somewhere like Ohio State. Offensive lineman Micah Smith from Vero Beach High in Florida. He's in the top 100, number 86 player overall, Josh. He's been to Ohio State 5 or 6 times. I didn't realize he'd been there that much, but he said the shoe was rocking today. He talked about the sacks Ohio State was piling up, getting the crowd in a dither. But he said each visit he keeps getting better. He likes the consistency of Coach Fry and the coaching staff with the offensive line. He says every experience is just a little different. Ohio State recently offered top 100 edge rusher Samodi Kataanga from J. Sarah Catholic in California. He's made the rounds to some of the biggest games this year. He said the atmosphere is one of the best he's experienced this year. The fans, the team, everything in Columbus made an impression on him. Talking to Coach Larry Johnson and how he envisions him on the defensive line excites him. And he talked about the defense flying around. And I can definitely picture myself playing in the shoe. He said, look, this Indiana defense or Indiana offense was one of the most efficient in the country. Curtis Rourke, a contender for Big Ten Player of the Year. I think he threw for like 66 yards. So Ohio State's defense got after him. Tight end Jude Kisconi from Georgia has an offer from Ohio State. And he echoed a lot of what the others said about the environment and the experience, but he likes the way Ohio State uses their tight ends and H-backs and the versatility it allows them to play with and how they make that offense potent and dangerous. They offered 4-star safety Joey O'Brien. They'll battle Penn State, Notre Dame, among others, but it was an exciting day at Ohio State. They got a win that was pivotal for the Big Ten race, the college football playoff. If you win the Big Ten, you have a chance to be the #1 overall seed in the college football playoff. So Ohio State has a lot to play for, and they're also in the mix for the nation's #1 ranked recruiting class. They sit at #3. If they flip David Sanders, that would obviously be massive in their quest. And I think that they have a shot to flip David Sanders, talking to several sources about it today.
All right. Well, that is definitely a recruitment that we're going to be talking about, not just tonight, but probably on Sunday on the Inside Scoop. Then we'll be back on Monday with more intel from Steve on the Wiltfong Whip Around. So David Sanders, Ohio State fans, how are you feeling about this one? Are you surprised to see? Of course you're surprised. Don't even lie. We know you're surprised, but let me know. Do you think David Sanders is going to flip to Ohio State? Let me know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's head to Gainesville. We got to talk a little Florida Gator recruiting because the Gators are red hot. They win 24-17. The Gators are now 6-5. Ole Miss is 8-3, Steve. The Gators were hard to watch early in the season, but now it seems like they are easy to root for, and DJ Lagway's impact can't be measured. Even Lane Kiffin said it before the game. I was watching College Game Day. He made a note. He said, DJ Lagway makes the whole team play better. You very rarely see this, but as a quarterback, there's something about the defense is playing better when DJ Lagway's at quarterback. All right, so we're going to talk about the win, but we're going to talk about it from a recruiting perspective. So there were some notable no-shows. No Dallas Wilson, no Javian Hilson, and no Jamie French, but there were some big names on campus and a couple official visitors. Steve, how do you see this weekend going for the Gators?
Man, how about the turnaround for the Florida Gators, the resiliency, the culture that Billy Napier and his staff have put in place in Gainesville? Because when they got whooped by Miami in week 1, there were a lot of articles written that it was over. But you know what? They played hard. They've played through injuries. Every Saturday they've showed up and played as hard as possible. And now they're going to get a postseason game. The Florida Gators, they've gotten better each year of the Billy Napier era. And you can just feel the support rallying around this program, from the administration giving him the vote of confidence to beating LSU in what was, again, you and I, we don't normally put too much stock in games, but there was just something about that Florida LSU game that if you win it, it could really spearhead something special. They win it. Now they beat Ole Miss, a top 10 team. I think they're going to finish strong on the trail. I think it's going to be an exciting time for them in the transfer portal. They have their franchise quarterback, DJ Lagway, who looks like he has all the traits to ultimately hear his name called first in the NFL draft. The reigning Gatorade High School Player of the Year. Kids want to play with him. And one prospect that I think wants to play with him is Arizona receiver commit Muiz Tunkara. He's 6'4", 200 pounds. He's from the Lone Star State. He's committed to Arizona. I put in a flip pick for Florida today. He is on his official visit, but I was able to chat with him a little bit. Talked about it being a crazy atmosphere, one of the best in college football. The opportunity to play in the best conference in the country excites him, and that this visit exposed him to different experiences, the Gator culture, the traditions, everything's impressive to him. So I think that Florida's trending here. Talked to some sources close to him coming into the visit, and they indicated that Florida was in a great spot. You know who else was on campus this weekend? Was Ty Jackson, top 100 linebacker from Florida. Talked to his dad a little bit afterwards. It was a good game. Congratulations to Coach Napier and the team. He said after the game, I think they're just taking it all in right now. He obviously committed to USC in the summer. It was probably one of the biggest, most surprise commitments because he had only been to USC once. He's probably been to Florida over 10 times. You know, Alabama he'd been to a bunch. Georgia he'd been to a bunch. Florida State was scheduled to get an official visit the weekend of November 30th, but he popped for USC. Loved being around the Trojan staff and that LA vibe and the direction of the program and those coaches. But this visit to Florida, I think, was to dot some I's and cross some T's. So I think the Gators have a pulse in this recruitment for sure, and we'll see where it takes him as he continues to work through his process.
Yeah, Ty Jackson, I saw a note on Gators Online. Corey Bender put something on there that he's already hearing from sources that the visit's going really well. And like you're hearing, there is some traction there, and it makes sense. I mean, Ty Jackson's from the state of Florida. Like you said, he went out to USC, made a quote unquote surprise commitment while he was on that visit. We'll see if he sticks. Who else is on? Oh, Onis Konanbaney committed to Tennessee. We're seeing some Tennessee recruits out on the road today. Maybe a little surprising considering Tennessee has a home game and has recruits on campus as we speak.
Yeah, Onis Konanbaney taking one final look. Byron Lewis, running back, committed to Florida State. Coming into the visit, I was told 50-50 on if he sticks or flips with the Noles. He was at Florida's win over LSU, loved the atmosphere, wanted to get his parents back up to campus. So they're definitely in the middle of that recruitment. And then look, guess who made it? Ben Hanks Jr., one of the jewels of this class. You know, there was talk, hey, he might visit Miami this week. And I talked to his dad earlier the week. He said, we're not visiting Miami. If we're able to take a visit, we'll be at Florida. He's at Florida. So I think that speaks to where the Gators stand right now. Yeah, I talked to touted offensive tackle George Haziotis from Naples community there. He had a great visit to Florida today. Jahari Medlock, an offensive lineman from the Peach State, committed to Cincinnati. He's high on Florida's board right now. Corey put in an on 3 RPM for Florida to flip him, I believe. I like the way that's trending for the Gators as well. So this weekend's going to pay some dividends with folks that were in the swamp. And it's going to continue to help Florida try and close guys like other touted in-state talents like Jamie French, Myron Charles. And I'm not saying that they're going to land those guys because, I mean, it's going to be wars. But this was a top 10 win coming off a top 25 win the week before. People can see it starting to come together. And again, this is just the beginning. Like they had to change a whole culture at Florida, remake a whole roster. But you're seeing the young guys really perform at a high level, and you're just seeing how hard they play for Coach Nape. So I'm expecting Florida to do a fantastic job of retaining their roster. Yeah. And then going out and landing some more difference makers because it's obvious these guys love playing at Florida and playing hard for Coach Napier and company.
Yeah, they're a fun team to watch right now. I couldn't imagine what the swamp was like after that win. We saw a lot of celebration. It looked like everybody's trying to get their picture with DJ Lagway. Love that. The locker room was on fire. So Gator fans, man, how are you feeling? You got to feel good about not just the season, but the way that recruiting's going, because heading out of the summer, really even before the season began, it seemed like the Gator recruiting was really flat. But here we are less than 2 weeks from signing day, and the Gators have a really solid class and a chance to finish with more. So Gator fans, talk to us. Let us know. Comment section below how you guys feeling after this big win. And what about these top recruits on campus? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's head to Austin. Texas versus Kentucky. The Longhorns took care of business. 31-14. You never know when Kentucky comes to town how it's going to go, but this one was never close, and there were some big names on campus, starting with five-star offensive tackle Michael Fasusi. He's a major flip target. Then you got Nate Marshall, Auburn flip target. And really some big news that Jamie French and Myron Charles were in Austin and not in Gainesville. I mean, we just talked about how big of a weekend it was for the Gators as they win at home yet again. But Jamie French, there'd been a lot of smoke around him and Myron Charles and the Gators, but they both show up in Austin this weekend. Let's start with Michael Fasusi. How are you feeling about that one, Steve?
Well, he's going to visit Texas A&M next weekend, so I think he'll be able to stack these two visits up against each other, circle back with Oklahoma, see where the language is on some of the benefits of being a player off the field for these programs is at, and then make his final decision. But look, Oklahoma's not having the season that they wanted to have. They've had some changes on the coaching staff with the offensive coordinator. And I think that's really opened the door here for Texas and Texas A&M to make a late push. And he's wanted to go see some more games, so got a chance to watch the Longhorns run away from Kentucky. He'll get a chance to see the Longhorns play again next week. So he's going to see Texas play 2 times down the stretch. So if you're Steve Sarkisian, Coach Flood and company, you're pretty excited about that opportunity to have Michael Fasusi watch you again next week in College Station. So I think Texas A&M was the runner-up the first time. So coming into like the 2 visits, I maybe would have given them the edge. But look, there was someone I've even heard, look, he was always going to go to Texas, and so Oklahoma was just like a little pit stop before the inevitable of going to Texas. So, we'll see what happens. It's one of the most coveted players in the country. Also one of the most coveted players in the country from an NIL perspective, or the demand from an NIL perspective. I think he was one of the guys that, was doing well in that department. So big visit coming up here with Texas A&M next, and he'll get a chance to watch Texas play 2 times in a row.
All right. Now, Nate Marshall, Auburn commitment on campus. He's an edge rusher. We know that Texas would like to add another defensive lineman, another edge. So what do you think about Nate Marshall and this trip to Austin? Something serious going on?
Well, anytime Texas gets a prospect on campus, it definitely raises my eyes with what they can offer on and off the field, the power of the Burnt Orange and that program, and certainly the caliber of ball that they're playing. I mean, this is one of the best teams in the country now, and they're not going anywhere. Top 5 recruiting class looking to put the finishing touches on that. Nate Marshall at one point committed to Michigan. Auburn was the program that I think has led most of his process before the commitment to Michigan. Then obviously he flipped to Auburn. He has a great relationship on the Plains. That's the difference, right? So Texas can offer a lot of things. His relationship's obviously way better at Auburn, but we'll see all the things he picks up this weekend at Texas. I'm sure it's looking attractive.
All right. Now,
I don't think there's much panic on the Plains, though.
Okay. Jamie French, Myron Charles. It's got to be great to see them both on campus this weekend if you're a Texas fan, because they're both from the state of Florida. And as this season winds down and as we get closer to signing day, you never know if they made their last visit to Austin or not. So to see them on campus, I think that's got to be a vote of confidence in their commitment status with the Longhorns, would you say?
Yeah, look, Texas, they're not afraid to go toe-to-toe with anybody on the recruiting trail under Steve Sarkisian. From day one, we've seen them win some wars on the trail. Anytime you're recruiting out of the Sunshine State, it's never easy. Jamie French at one point was committed to Alabama, then was an Ohio State lean. Then they battle LSU and Miami down the stretch and win that one. And now they have to clear the Florida hurdle. He was at Florida last weekend. But getting them back, look, Texas has poured a lot into this recruitment. So I can certainly see him sticking with the Longhorns. And then Myron Charles, again, that was one. He was committed to Florida State at one point. But he's always loved Texas. And now Florida's trying to make a late charge. But Texas has spent a lot of time at the top or near the top of this young man's recruitment and certainly getting him back. He's excited about playing for the Longhorns.
All right. Well, big win at home for Texas, 31-14 over Kentucky. Quick note, Joseph Mbachu committed to the Texas Longhorns. That went down before the game. Mbachu's a 4-star defensive lineman out of Georgia who was originally committed to the Florida Gators. He opened it back up, took visits nearly everywhere from USC to Ohio State to Auburn, a few others as well. Joseph Mbachu was back at Florida last weekend, but made that commitment to Texas. So Texas fans, how we feeling after the big win over Kentucky? Some big names on campus, but what about the 5-star offensive tackle, Michael Fasusi? Think you're going to land him? Let me know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's talk Michigan and Northwestern. That game's kicking off right now, but Michigan is the epicenter of recruiting right now after flipping Bryce Underwood. And this is strange to me, seeing Bryce Underwood in the blue and gold and not the purple and gold. But Bryce Underwood, I mean, he looks the part. He looks like a Michigan commitment. He's at the tailgates. He's hanging out. Steve, what do you think of Bryce Underwood's first trip to Ann Arbor as a Michigan Wolverine commitment?
I know that felt like a long time coming for Maize and Blue fans as Bryce Underwood popped up on everybody's radar as a freshman, taking Belleville to the state championship, their first state title in school history. Then they just went back and won it again as a sophomore. He played in the state title game as a junior. Look, a program-changing win on the trail for them to get back to what we've been accustomed to seeing them. 3 straight Big Ten titles, the defending national champs. The bar is set high, and Sharon Moore and his staff, they have the resources behind them now to be a juggernaut on the trail, and they want to build as talented a roster as they possibly can. And it starts in that quarterback room and getting that right and getting Bryce Underwood. He's clearly the top quarterback in this class. So big recruiting win for him. We'll see what it leads to on the trail moving forward as they push for several others. But he looked at home. He looked happy to be there. I know his family's happy that he's committed to Michigan. And look, he saw the Wolverines roll 50-6 today against Northwestern. Yeah. So they'll be looking for a lot more of that with Bryce Underwood in this class that's currently ranked number 8 nationally, but has a runway to certainly push into the top 5.
Yeah, and that runway has gotten a little bit longer with the commitment of Bryce Underwood. We started hearing names popping up left and right. One of the big ones was Jakeem Stewart, the 5-star defensive lineman that's going to take a visit to Oregon this weekend. But we could see Jakeem Stewart pop up. But we did see a surprise name at a position of need. Maybe if David Sanders hadn't shown up in Columbus, this might have been the biggest surprise visit of the weekend. And we're talking edge Javian Hilson from Cocoa Beach High School down in South Florida, had been at one time committed to Alabama, another time committed to Florida State, reopened that recruitment at the end of August. And now here we are 10 days from signing day, Javian Hilson in Ann Arbor. What does it mean, Steve?
One of the most disruptive players in the country, a high-motored guy who plays for a great high school program, going to come in and make a positive impact on your program. Michigan just offered him. They have his quarterback committed, Brady Hart, 2026 4-star recruit. He was Javian Hilson. This was a late developing visit, right? Michigan offered him, and there was talk of getting him onto campus. Then it was, hey, he may visit Florida this weekend, but he ends up at Michigan. He's on an official visit. The Wolverines just blow out Northwestern. He's going to have a great night with the coaching staff and players. And I think he's a personality fit. I think the Cocoa High football program is one that kind of matches the Michigan program. I think he's going to see a lot of similarities in the way that these coaches carry themselves. But Michigan, they have a lot to sell from the defensive line production. Some of the big names that have come out of there, most recently Aiden Hutchinson. They have a couple drafted, a couple guys that are going to be drafted highly in the upcoming draft in April on the roster right now. So Michigan has a lot to sell, and this has been a recruitment that's been extremely fluid, as you know, Josh. He's been committed to Alabama. He's been committed to Florida State. Texas has trended on the on-3 RPM. A visit to A&M was a needle mover. He's been to Pittsburgh recently. He's been to Syracuse recently, UCF. Sources around them, it felt like they were in it going into the fall. So maybe Michigan getting one of the later visits here that catapults them into the 1 spot. So they'll have more conversations. What does it mean to be a Michigan player off the field? What are the benefits of that? That'll certainly come up this weekend, and then we'll have an idea where the Wolverines stand.
Yeah. Steve, let's talk about two more big names that have been connected with Michigan since the commitment of Bryce Underwood. That's Jakeem Stewart and Derek Meadows. They weren't on campus this weekend, but do you think that there's a good chance either one or both could end up in this Michigan Wolverine class?
Well, Derek Meadows is a lot more promising than Jakeem Stewart, in my opinion, right now. I mean, Jakeem Stewart's in the infancy stages of that recruitment, but Derek Meadows, Michigan's, was a finalist when he committed to LSU. He's been to campus several times, including earlier this year. And my on-3 RPM is on Michigan, but I am certainly aware of Alabama in this recruitment. He could end up in Tuscaloosa as well. Before he committed to LSU, there was a time where I thought it was going to be Notre Dame or Bama. Yeah. LSU kind of made a late charge here, but he's got great relationships in Tuscaloosa, great relationships in Ann Arbor. So this one, look, he's still having some final conversations with his family. I expect him to commit sometime next week. But he's the receiver that Michigan's going after. That's the one that they want the most that's not committed right now. He is Michigan's top target, and same with Bama. He's Bama's top target of all the receivers that are not committed right now. So a little bit of a war on the trail between those two programs down the stretch.
What a week for Michigan Wolverine recruiting. It's just been incredible. We've been talking about it all week, and I have a good feeling that we're not done talking Michigan recruiting here on the On3 Recruits channel. So Michigan fans, talk to us. How are we feeling about Bryce Underwood showing up in Michigan gear as a commit? It had to feel good. Let us know. Comment section below. All right, let's talk a little LSU recruiting as LSU takes on Vandy. There's a 5-star on campus. It's offensive lineman Solomon Thomas, who's committed to Florida State. Steve, let's bring in Steve Wiltfong. We're going to talk a little LSU recruiting. Now, maybe the most notable visitors are the ones on LSU's commit list that did not take visits this week. In the wake of the Bryce Underwood news, everything seemed like it was up for grabs, but we can report no DJ Pickett visit anywhere this week. No Derek Meadows, no Zion Williams or Cade Phillips. Neither of them showed up at Texas. So Shea Dixon put this out. I haven't completely fact checked it, but there are 0 LSU commitments on visits elsewhere this weekend. That's got to be a good sign if you're an LSU fan after what happened this week.
No question, particularly Cade Phillips, because there were reports even going into Friday that he would be back at Texas. So Corey Raymond, LSU, able to put that to bed. DJ Pickett and his family always go on vacation this week of the year, so they're on a family trip together. So he wasn't expected to visit anywhere this weekend.
All right. Well, Solomon Thomas. We want to talk Solomon Thomas because there's a good chance that he was going to end up in Gainesville this weekend. We know the Gators wanted to get him on campus. They had some momentum with him. He's committed to Florida State, but we knew LSU has been a threat. When we talk Solomon Thomas, we talk 3 teams, right? We talk Florida State, the program that he's committed to. We talk the Florida Gators and the LSU Tigers. So this weekend, he shows up in the Bayou. What do you make of it?
Well, he was at Florida last week, LSU this week. There are sources that believe that LSU is the biggest challenger to Florida State for Solomon Thomas. They look like a huge challenger to Florida State in the summer. I mean, that Solomon Thomas, he sent me a bunch of photos and I didn't ask for him after his official visit to LSU. I mean, I thought he was close to flipping to the Tigers in June. So Coach Brad Davis, just Brian Kelly's history of offensive line, Coach Davis, the way he's developed those guys in Baton Rouge, just the feel he gets, the vibe around the program. LSU's always kind of been there pushing Florida State for him. I think we've had Solomon Thomas as a stick to Florida State. They poured a lot into that recruitment, but we'll see, how those conversations go with LSU this weekend and if that changes the dynamic of this recruitment.
Yeah, and I mean, I know he didn't show up in Gainesville this weekend, but we're not counting out the Gators with 10 days to go, are we?
No, we're not. But most of the people I talk to say LSU is the biggest threat to FSU, but all that stuff can change on a dime. It's that time of year.
All right. Well, it's going to be a really intriguing week for LSU recruiting to see how they bounce back from the Bryce Underwood news of last week. LSU fans, how you feeling? Have you bounced back from the Bryce Underwood news of last week? We're all here. We're family. Let us know how you're feeling. Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's head down to the Plains. We're talking Auburn, Texas A&M. This one is loaded with big-time visitors, starting with Justice Terry, Deuce Knight, Usman Chroma showed up, Jared Smith. There's one big name that you just told me about, and he didn't make the graphic. That's five-star corner Naeem Alford. He shows back up on the Plains before he's visited Ohio State, the program he's committed to. Where do you want to start with this one? Justice Terry's an interesting name. Chroma, Naeem, Deuce Knight. Where do you want to go?
Yeah, Auburn looking to get back into the top 5, top 10 class for a second straight year. These are some guys that they've been involved with quite some time. Let's just start with Naeem Alford, 5-star corner, top 10 recruit nationally. I think this is his 4th game to Auburn this year. He's expected back at Ohio State next weekend. I still think that's going to be a tough hold for them. Sometimes in the Naeem Alford recruitment, you hear a lot about Oregon behind the scenes. But if you purely follow the visits, and I know proximity makes it easier, 4 games and at least 1 practice this fall for Naeem Alford at Auburn.
Wow.
And the way we've seen them close in-state recruits, it's hard to bet against the Tigers here at the end. We'll see if Oregon can rise up in this one. And then obviously he's going to be back at Ohio State next weekend for the game against Michigan. That will be electric. Usman Chroma is a guy that at one point I had predicted to Auburn, and then Georgia kind of turned it up for him and quickly got him committed. But Auburn never went away. He's been one of their top overall targets regardless of position. I think they've probably led the most if you add up who's been his leader. Florida State would have been another one that you would include in that. And so they get him back to campus. He's been there. I think this is his 3rd Auburn game of the year, at least. And so him coming back, certainly I could see him in Auburn's class for sure. As we get closer to signing day. Darian Smith, Chad Simmons and I have him on Flip Watch, Tennessee commit. Wow. St. Francis, a couple of his teammates are already committed to Auburn. And there's some buzz that he could flip from Tennessee. Justice Terry, we love Georgia for Justice Terry right now. But his relationship with Kenyatta Watson, their director of recruiting and strategy, he used to work for Under Armour. He met Justice Terry when he was at an Under Armour camp in middle school. Then Kenyatta took a job at Florida State. Justice Terry's first college visit, Florida State. He's known the family for a long time, and there's a trust there. And Auburn's pouring a lot into this weekend, so we'll see if that can move the needle on Georgia. Obviously, getting your commits back, Deuce Knight, Jared Smith. I mean, these are guys that we've seen on other campuses. You know, Deuce was at Ole Miss, Jared Smith in South Carolina. Almost.
Real quick on Deuce, where's your head at right now with Deuce Knight?
I think he sticks, but my antenna is not up like it was up for Bryce Underwood in Michigan.
I'm sure Auburn fans love to hear that. What's up with all these Tennessee recruits taking visits this weekend?
Look, everybody's recruits are taking visits this weekend. Just so happens that Tennessee's best recruit took a visit this weekend, and it was one that no one was expecting. And not only was no one expecting it, but that visit to Ohio State is very real. And buckle up for Tennessee. And Auburn's got to buckle up for Jared Smith. Look, South Carolina, that's real. He's intrigued by them. His relationship with Dylan Stewart, they're good friends. The opportunity to play with Dylan Stewart at South Carolina. He's been South Carolina's top overall recruit, regardless of position. In the spring, I thought he was going to go to South Carolina. Auburn rallied in the summer, got him committed. He's been to just about every Auburn home game, but he's been to South Carolina twice. He's expected at Ole Miss for the Egg Bowl, which would be his second visit to Ole Miss. So getting him back around the guys, play well tonight on the Plains. Have a great weekend. Lock all these guys up because Auburn had a great class last year. You have a great class this year, including your franchise quarterback. They're going to go in the portal to land a difference maker at the position of quarterback. And then they already have a top 10 class in 2026. So, and Auburn, they've been in every game they've played in this year. I mean, so I know early in the year, a lot of people were trying to, point the finger at Hugh Freeze for this, for that. And look, it comes with the territory when you coach at a place like Auburn, but they've been in every game, including Georgia on the road, and they're recruiting at a high level. and it can quickly turn with the players that they're bringing into this program. They're going to be aggressive in the portal at key positions. This is a phenomenal class if they can hang on to it. And most of these guys are back on campus this weekend. And I have them all sticking right now.
Okay.
10 up, probably the most on Jared right now, just because I know what a priority he is at some of those other places. But I don't have him in the flip category yet.
And you think there's a good chance that they will flip Naeem Offord?
Naeem Offord and Usman Chroma.
Yeah.
I think Cole Pinkston, our Auburn.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I saw it on the Auburn Live message board just before we logged on. Cole Pinkston, insider over there, put in a prediction for the flip. So we'll see what happens. But right now, as we speak, Auburn's up 21-0 on Texas A&M. So it's a good time to have not only your commits, but some of these big-time targets on campus. Auburn fans got to be feeling good about the class, the season. It's been up and down, but this recruiting class has never wavered. So let us know. Is there a 5-star flip in the future? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, that's another recruit reaction from us.
We have one more. We thank everybody for watching the recruit reaction this year. It's been fun. We thought this show up like 2 days before the first episode. Not a lot went into it, but we're having fun, enjoying college football Saturdays with you guys. Like and subscribe. The Inside Scoop will be back on Sunday. The Wilpon Whip Around will be on Monday. You guys enjoy your Saturday night.
See you guys from the best recruiting channel on YouTube.